everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm going to be going over my mid-month wrap-up for the month of December. I can't believe it's already the end of the year. I've almost been doing booktube for a year now, which is crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in because I think I have about 15 books to go over, and I kind of have a migraine today, so I don't want to be talking for an hour. So hopefully I'll be able to manage my time a little better than I usually do. But let's just go ahead and dive right into my mid-month wrap-up. Okay, so 15 books to go over. Some of these are part of my December readathon, the prompts that they're going to hit a bunch of prompts for the bingo board that I'm doing. I'm trying to black it out. If you guys aren't aware, we are doing a December readathon. It's going to be on Bestie Book Reviews channel, so you can check out all the graphics are available on my Instagram account, and I hope you guys are following me on there. I'd really appreciate the follows, but they're going to highlight for the December readathon. But it's never too late to join because honestly it's just reading by tropes and you should easily be able to get a bingo out of it. But check out my Instagram for more info. So let's go ahead and dive right into my books. We're going to start it out with a really quick novella. The previous month I read Curvy 13 by Nicci Harris, which I absolutely loved. Nicci Harris announced on Instagram that she was going to be doing basically kind of smutty, dark novellas, and I was here for it. I just discovered Nicci Harris this year with her Kids of the District series, which I absolutely love those Mafia romances. So the first one was Curvy 13. It's a curvy TikTok book talker that actually gets kind of held captive by two brothers because she's on the jury for their other brother, and they want her to, make it possible for him to get a not guilty. There's non-con, dub-con going on here. There's lots of kinks. It was a great time, and this is a continuation of that. So this book is Curvy Forever. And this book is basically taking place right after the last novella. But now the brother is going to be introduced. So the brother that she was going to be on his jury, he's kind of introduced and thrown into the mix here. So this is a reverse harem, and it's with three brothers. My favorite is Tyler because he's kind of more crazy or a little unbalanced, but he's in love with her and devoted to her. There's lots of kinky stuff happening here. There's even a dog cage in the part of it. So these are fun. They are darker novellas, just be aware. But they are really fun, smutty, quick little novellas. I would highly recommend it. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I love the addition of Dexter, which is the third brother. And it's 5 chilies because they go after it. And there's multiple positions, sharing. I believe there was butt play. Yeah, there was butt play in this. So there's a lot going on, and it's a fun time. Then I read Barbarians Redemption by Ruby Dixon. This is actually the Ice Planet Barbarians number 12. I've been slowly trying to make my way through the Ice Planet Barbarians series, and I think she has another series tied to it, so I'm sure I'll keep going on this. I love them. For some reason, to me, these are very sweet comfort reads. I love reading them. So this one is actually between Beck and Ellie, and Beck is kind of a character that you've kind of disliked. He was pretty aggressive and wanted to mate, but he wasn't mating with anybody. He wasn't resonating to any of the human women. So in the previous book, these other people aliens crash. They're kind of tied to them, maybe the same species, but they live on a different planet. And they end up kind of crash landing and they're leaving, but he gets them to help him. And so he wants to find more human women. Well, he ends up getting basically getting these slaves, which he didn't really get that they were slaves. So, he bought these human women to bring to his planet so that more of the men that aren't mated yet, they can mate to these human women. But the problem is they were slaves. So the human women that are there are like infuriated that he did this, that he bought slaves. So they basically kind of banish him from, being in their tribe and everything. And Ellie has actually been a slave since I think she was like 13. So she's had really bad experiences, and she doesn't talk. She can talk, but she doesn't talk. She doesn't trust people. She was like overly like dirty to make it so she's not like beautiful or stand out to anybody. And so it's this really slow burn relationship between them, and it's really beautiful. Beck like redeems himself, and he gets to understand what it is to be a slave and like what he did by buying them and all that kind of stuff. So I really loved it. I think this is a good introduction. So we got some more human women to come in so we can get some more mating going on. But I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I think it's one of my favorite in the series. And then I think it was a 2.5 on the Chili's, because it is a slower burn till like they finally get together sexually, because he wants to build her trust and all of that since she has had trauma. Okay, so then I read an arc. This is Lose You to Find Me. This is by B. Celeste, and it is the 3rd book in the Linda New series. I haven't read the other books, but I thought, you could read it as a standalone, which you definitely can. I just think I was missing out on like what happened with this couple before, but you definitely can go in as a standalone. So this is takes place in college, Lincoln University, but they're like graduated, I think, going to like master's, so they're older. And this is between Caleb and I think Rain. Yeah, Rain. And they've actually been together since high school, like high school sweethearts. So they've been together for like 7 years. And at their graduation, he proposes to her and she says no for her reasons. So he's devastated. He didn't know anything was going on, anything wrong with them. They thought he was going on to their next, part of life, marriage and like a family and everything. And so he's devastated. He doesn't know why she said no. And his dad is, going through, I think he had brain cancer. I'm not positive. I had a couple cancer parents this last half of the month. But he was dying. And so she kind of comes back from the summer away and finds out that his dad is dying. Nobody told her. She's devastated because he was like a part of her family too. So this is a second chance kind of romance. I thought it was good. The writing was it was good writing. And, I flew through it pretty quickly. But I just had some major issues because of her reasons for ending things with him. I thought was stupid. And I get that it could be understandable, but, and I'm being kind of vague here because it is a new release. It just came out. I can't remember which day it came out, but it's new this month. And I don't want to give anything away, but, she just, it's a huge miscommunication and not communicating with your partner. And something that she has this big secret that she's hidden from him. And to me, it's like you stayed with him for 7 years, even knowing this is the issue. And then you end things with him instead of just talking to him and making him have a choice in the matter. I think I'm going to put spoilers up. I'm going to put spoilers up because I have to say what it is. And I think my trigger warnings will be a spoiler anyways. But basically, she has a condition where she actually had cheated on him. Kind of. When they were in high school, she didn't fully cheat on. They weren't together, but she lost her virginity with a guy while they were kind of talking together. And she basically lied and told him she was a virgin. And she ended up having a miscarriage and ends up having that condition where she can't have babies. And it's basically like a barely possible for her to, and it's be dangerous. So she stayed with him. Didn't tell him about any of that. And then when he proposes, she ends things with him because she knows she can't give him a child. And to me, that's just so selfish and stupid. And you could have a communication with him, and I'm sure he'd be fine with adopting. You guys could look into things about your options. I don't know. I just think it's kind of crazy that you're doing it. I hate, she basically white-finged him, where she's, ending things for his benefit, for the good of him. I just didn't like it. I felt like she was made his life 100 times harder. He had to go through his father's like sickness without her. And I don't know. She just was pretty unlikable because like all you had to do was be honest with the person that was the love of your life. So I gave this one 4 stars because it is an arc. I probably would have given it probably like 3.5, but I did give it 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. But you know, just it wasn't as good as I expected it to be. Okay, I'm already talking too long and I'm not feeling great, so I need to talk a little faster here. But the next book that I read was Scarred by Emily McIntire. I did buy this series after hearing about her breast cancer. I wanted to be supportive, and I still haven't read it. I had read Hooked a long time ago, but I haven't continued. So I'm really happy that I read this because I really enjoyed it. And this is between Tristan and Sarah, and this is basically a retelling, a Lion King retelling. So Sarah is actually going to be in an arranged marriage with who's going to be basically like the king, and that's kind of like the Mufasa guy. And then she kind of falls for his brother, which is Scarred, which is Tristan. So it's really interesting. I really found this fascinating because it was dark, but it felt like a historical romance, and it just had like those vibes to it, but like darker. So I really liked it. I think Tristan is a really great, morally gray, you know, screw everybody, touch her and die kind of hero. He ends up kind of starting out with, because he knows his brother is set to marry Sarah. He has a whole like a rebellion going on with like the lower income people are kind of fighting up there, the hyenas, and they are basically kind of trying to figure out a way to overthrow his brother. And so he ends up kind of wanting to figure out what Sarah is about. She's actually there for her family's revenge to kill the guy she's going to marry, the king. So she ends up like kind of sneaking around the castle, kind of having these run-ins with Tristan. And she like, they have like amazing chemistry. They get pretty sexy. And, you know, I really loved it. I did listen to audiobook, and so the female narrator was kind of annoying. So that kind of drew back for a little bit for me. But I thought it was different, like a really unique kind of dark historical romance feel. So I gave this one 4.5 stars and 4 chilies. It's a great spicy time. And I believe I don't know if it's how long it's going to go on, but this is available on Audible Plus. So you can just read for free if you have Audible. But I really, really enjoyed that one. Okay, so now on to my favorite book of this month so far, and that is P.S. You're Intolerable by Julia Wolf. I got the ARC for this, and I'm so thankful that I got it. I absolutely love this book. I couldn't put it down. It was so swoon-worthy. I have a new book boyfriend from this book, so it is amazing. I believe it's the 3rd book in the series, but you honestly can go right into this one. You can read it as a standalone. You'll probably want to dive back into the previous books because it's just so good. But this is between Elliot and Catherine. And Catherine is actually just got a job for Elliot as his personal assistant when this first starts. They have a funny meet cute, and then she ends up being interviewing with him. And she gets his personal assistant job. Nobody really stays his personal assistant because he's pretty hard ass. He's OCD. He likes things a certain way. This is a grumpy sunshine. And so she's actually pregnant though when she first starts there. And he doesn't know though. She's pregnant, but it's just with her, like one of her best friends, like her partner's baby. They actually had just got a house to try and flip. So they're doing renovations to it to try and flip and make money. So they're living together, and she's pregnant at the time. And, but jump forward ahead where she's later on her pregnancy. That guy has basically just kind of abandoned her with the home a mess. He like moves back to Australia, and she's kind of stuck on her own. And so it's really funny because Elliot never even noticed that she was pregnant until his friends pointed out. And then he does all these like sweet little acts of like kind of kindness or just trying to treat her. And it's just these little things that are really sweet. And when she ends up going on maternity leave, he is like emailing her all the time, messaging her. He really misses her because she was such a perfect assistant and he really appreciates her. So he ends up having to go to her house while she's at home with the baby on maternity leave. And he sees her living conditions and he's horrified that she's living like this with her baby. So he basically moves her into his place. And now you have this forced proximity and they're living together. And let me just tell you, the way he is with her baby, Joey, he is so sweet to her. Like, he's so, like, helps her, like, just the little things, like, where she couldn't really even sit down to eat. She'd be nursing or this or holding the baby. And he would, like, hold Joey so that she could actually finish her meal and have a moment to herself. He, like, would let her sleep in and help take care of her. He is just, like, I can't explain it. Like, this is my new thing, is a guy that falls in love with a woman and her baby and the baby isn't his. Like, oh my gosh. Elliot is a dream. Like, he is on my top book boyfriend list. He's been put up there because he was so perfect. So I absolutely love this book. If out of any of these books that I talk about, please read this one. It is so good. I gave this one 6 stars. It's my favorite book by Julia Wolf. It's just, I loved it so much. And I liked it because there wasn't like a full 3rd act breakup or anything. It was more them figuring out their situation, and it doesn't really last that long. But they have like better communication. They're like a team with the baby. And I can't gush about it enough. It is one of the best billionaire single mom romances I've ever read. So 6 stars. And then I think I gave it 3.5 chilies. Once they start getting like, oh, and the best thing is like him wanting to treat her. He would go down on her forever and just worry about her getting like satisfaction. And oh, he's a dream man, people. And then I read another arc. I had a lot of arcs this month, and I even just got 2 more that I totally forgot I signed up for. So it's been like kind of a crazy month for me. But I read The Keeper by Bella Matthews. This is the first book in the Playing to Win series. This is going to be a 2nd generation series. I only read the last book of her previous series. That's like the parents and everything. So I really wish I would have read more, because the one thing that I didn't like about this book is it has so many family members. You feel like you need a family tree. They're heavily involved in it. And I'm like, whose brother? I don't know who this person is. I was kind of lost with how many people were in it, where you can't just kind of dive in and not know any of these people. But this is a hockey romance, and it's between Easton and Lindy, and they've been friends, really good friends. This is like a friends to lovers. They've both been mutually pining after each other for years, but like he was a few years older. So like when she was like 15 and started to have a crush on him, he was like over 19. So he felt, that's not okay. In the previous series, the book that I had read, her mom had a stalker, and the stalker held them at gunpoint and like almost killed them and everything. And so he helped save her and fight off this guy. So they have this trauma bond together too. And they're just very close. So I believe it's her 21st birthday, if I remember correctly. I'm not positive, but they were in Vegas, and that's where he plays for the hockey. He's an NHL hockey star, and they end up having a drunken night in Vegas, and she wakes up and she's married to him, but she doesn't remember anything, and he does. And so he's like refusing to get an annulment or divorce or whatever. He's like, when you remember, then we can talk about it. So he basically picks up his life, gets transferred to New York or wherever she's at. I think it was New York. And he transfers to that team, and he's basically has to deal with the drama with the family, because they're a very like public figure family, and the tabloids get a hold of this, and it's just chaos. But he's all in, and he's there to pursue her and make her want to be with him, be his wife. And it's a lot of my wife and you're mine. And it was cute. Like, it was really cute. I just think that a lot of it dealt heavily with the family stuff, and I didn't really know all the family members. So I gave this one 4 stars and 3 chilies. It was a really cute read. Okay, so then I read Into the Storm by Melanie Moreland. I read this for my snowed in prompt for the readathon, and this is between Joshua and Elizabeth. I think he calls her Rabbit most of the book, but basically what we have here is Joshua is a reclusive author. Something bad happened in his past, and he's pretty scared. He won't leave his property, so he lives in a very secluded wilderness area, but he can do stuff around the property, but not past it. So he has so it's kind of like the agoraphobia, but not completely, because he can go outside. And then we have Elizabeth, and she actually is on the run, fleeing her abusive husband. And she crashes near his property, kind of gets turned around, crashes, and he basically takes her into his house, and there's a big snowstorm. So they're kind of stuck there together. But the problem is that she wakes up and she doesn't remember anything. But she's got all these bruises on her, and he has to kind of prove that he wasn't the one that abused her. And so they start this slow build, kind of burn for each other relationship. And I think he calls her Rabbit because they didn't know her name for a lot of it. And so then what happens when the husband finds her or comes back into the picture? So I enjoyed this. I thought it was really cute. I actually listened to this on Anyplay, and it was a good audiobook. So I gave this one 4 stars and then 2.5 chilies. It was a cute little snowed in vibe. Okay, so then I read another arc. I read A Mafia Virgin by Mia Finelli, and this is book number 5 in the Kings of Italy series. And this is actually the last book too. So I think she said she's going to be writing more, but maybe a different series, I'm guessing. But this is between Emma and Giacomo. I think I'm saying his name right. I could totally be saying it wrong. But Emma is actually the youngest sister of the sisters that were in Mafia Mistress and Mafia Darling. So she's the youngest sister. She's training to be a doctor. She's going to school. She's very studious and all about that. She is actually at home with their father because their father is dying of cancer, but the other sisters don't know about it. Their relationship is really bad with the father because of the things he did, and it was pretty messed up to them. But she's stayed by her father's side, and she's kind of helping keep it on the down low because, this is a mafia series. And if the mafia, other people knew he was sick, he would be in danger. And so she's kind of trying to keep that hidden and then go to school and everything. Well, because of the fallout that happened in the last book, Mafia Target, there's almost this war brewing between these families. And so there's a big meeting that goes on with the head of the Cosa Nostra, and he's the head of this organization. I believe it was Don Verga. And he basically at the end of that last book, he had told Giacomo and Fausto that they needed to do arranged marriage between their families so that there wouldn't be this war going on anymore. They both deny it. They're not going to do it. Especially Fausto is I'm not making my wife's youngest sister marry. Not gonna happen. So what ends up happening is Don Berger shows up at Emma's house, and he knows about her father, and he basically threatens her father's life and that she needs to come, and he forces her to come to Italy and marry Giacomo. He's also threatening somebody that Giacomo loves. And so that is kind of what happens here. This is a true forced marriage. They don't want to be in this marriage together. But on top of that, Don Verga also needs an heir for this mafia empire. And so he is saying that they need to get pregnant within 3 months. So we kind of have a little bit of the breeding kink going on in this. So I really enjoyed this. I did think it was a little lacking because they were kind of went after, I didn't feel like I connect to them as much. And then they were all in on each other pretty fast. And I really didn't like the way the third act went. I thought Emma was kind of ridiculous with her reasons. But I mean, it's okay. I think it was great, but it's not my favorite one in the series. So I gave this one 4 stars and 3 chilies. Just trigger warning for obviously cancer and a dying parent. Okay, so now on to kind of a big letdown and one of the most hype books, and that is The Fourth Wing. So I've seen this everywhere. I've seen it on TikTok, Instagram, BookTube, and it's like everybody rants and raves about this book. And it just didn't work for me. I thought that it was not that great of a fantasy. And I'm not like one of those fantasy elitist kind of things. But I mean, like I had a lot of issues with this book. I'm thinking I might just do a separate video where I talk about how I feel about this in a little bit more detail. So I'll try to keep this not as long here. So if I do post that, hopefully I'll remember to link it below, but we'll see. So Fourth Wing, I'm sure you've heard about it. I'm sure you've probably read it and you might love it. I mean, everybody loves this book. I'm definitely in the minority there. Like I didn't really enjoy it. This is between Violet Sorrengail and Xaden Ryerson. This is, you know, a college for dragon riders and all of that. And she is actually kind of thrust into this school, even though she wanted to be a scribe because she's very delicate and easily hurt. Her mom makes her join this school because she, you know, is a Sorrengail, and Sorrengails always are dragon riders. So she's kind of thrust into this. The way it starts out with her having to like walk this balance beam parapet thing, and then to even get into the school, and this is one of my things I noticed right off the bat, is it was so divergent with the different groups, the way she has to like do more stuff like way above her physical level, like the combat training, all this kind of stuff was so much divergent. It's crazy. So, and I was fine with that. I was like, okay, well, she's taking a little bit divergent. It should get better. But the issues just kind of kept adding up for me. And I'm not going to go too into depth here. I'm going to probably rant about this in another video. But basically, like, this was very young. Like, it's supposed to be new adult, but it read like young adult. It read like they were in high school, not in their 20s. The book dragged on and on. There's no world building in this, like no world building. I mean, like we don't even go into the depth into like what the wars are for. Why do we have dragon riders? When did the dragons start bonding with humans? When did that come into play? What is this world like? Why was there a rebellion? So, and it's marketed as enemies to lovers, and it's not really enemies to lovers because it just was like, they weren't really the enemies, even though we're told a million times that Xaden wants to kill her because his father was the head of the rebellion and her mother killed him or blah, blah, blah. You never feel like that he would hurt her. And he even helps her throughout the book. So anyways, I'm already going on too long about this, but I will go further into detail on my other video probably. So I just felt like this was subpar. Like it wasn't that great. It dragged on. If I wasn't listening to an audiobook and like happened to be listening to it for a couple days, like I probably would have DNF'd it. I don't know. The audiobook even read super young. The girl's voice, she just came off so young, and her aunt like nonstop in her monologues, and just I liked Xaden. I think he was a good character. I think it would have been better if we had like dual POVs. I don't know. Anyways, I'm talking too long already, but I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, and I think I'm being generous, and then it's 2.5 chilies, so don't know how I feel about that one. I might read the next one, but it's so long, like, so I don't know if I really want to invest a lot of time into it, so we'll see. And then I read Until Forever Ends, by Adelaide Forrest. This is the second book in the Beauty and Lies series. I really loved the first one, but this one was not good. This is between Rafe and Issa, and I think there's like 4 or 5. I don't know how many books there are, but I was kind of shocked there were that many books for like this one couple. In the previous book, he basically fell in love with her at first sight, and she was like underage, so he had to wait till she turned 18. And he had like his family members like were made into her best friends so they could keep a watch on her. And then after she graduates high school, she goes on this trip, and he ends up getting her trying to woo her there, to like make her fall in love with him and everything. But then things kind of go awry when she finds out he's part of the mafia and all this stuff. And she tries to get away, and he basically drugs her and kidnaps her. So that was the end of the first one. And this one got really crazy. I mean, it's got major non-con, dubious consent in this as well. Somnophilia. There's so many things that go on. But my problem was I liked Dubcon. I could read non-con too. But Rafe just continued to get worse and worse. There wasn't really any redeeming qualities to his character. And when he's like going to force brand her, I was like, no. He doesn't do it. So then I think, okay, then he force tattoos her. But then he gets pissed off her for something stupid and brands her. So I don't know, you guys. I might continue the story, but it is pretty bad, the stuff that he does. And I don't feel like she's fighting back enough. I feel like she's just kind of taking it. So I end up giving this one 3 stars. It does have 4 chilies because they get into some kinky stuff. He makes her do butt stuff. So I don't know. We'll see if I continue that. Okay, so then I read another arc. I read An Empire of Madness by V. Riviere. I read their first book, which was Apocalypse, and this is the second book in that series. I think you could read it as a standalone, but it is a little bit better going and reading Apocalypse so you know each of these characters. It's a group of 4 female friends that are trying to build a like criminal empire, kind of like their own mafia. And in this book, it's more focused on, because that one had a lot of POVs, so it's kind of confusing. So it was a lot going on. But in this one, it's just focusing on one of the friends. So this is Victoria Kane and Maddox Ryder's romance. And Maddox, or Ryder, he has a bunch of different aliases, but his main name is Ryder. And he actually has been obsessed with her since he had kind of like a one-night stand with her at a casino. And he has been obsessed. And so he's been stalking her for a few years. And he keeps sending her threatening letters, because he's worried about her safety and she's not listening to his threats. So he eventually has his med kidnap her. So this is a captive. But Victoria is very badass, manipulative, lethal heroine. And she isn't your typical, damsel in distress or going to be an easy captive. So I really love their dynamic because he wants to help her build her world. She ends up wanting to help him. You have a lot of flashbacks to him as a child. He grew up on the streets and from nothing and basically became this high up in the mafia world. He's, got his own criminal empire that he's running. And so he came from nothing to really be this high, powerful man. And so I really loved it because they were such equals in this. And she's has a million chances to get away, but she doesn't because she really starts to fall for him and she's fascinated with him. And so it was really cool to see somebody who's a very dominant woman, break down her walls and fall for this man. And I just really loved it. It was a lot of mafia politics. It's a lot heavier mafia stuff. So there's a lot going on in it. But I absolutely enjoyed it. It's so unique. We have another weird POV that's this boy that was his friend. He's kind of crazy. So you have these weird chapters from his POV, and so you're trying to figure out what's going on. It's very interesting. The last book had a POV from a guy that's talking to the reader, and so it was really Deadpool, kind of breaking the barrier, So I really enjoyed this. I gave this 5 stars and 4 chilies because once they start to have sex, and their sex was spicy, but it was really beautiful. The first time they have sex, they're in love already. So there's so much going on in that scene of them telling each other truths about each other that they don't tell anybody and breaking down their walls. And so I really loved their sex scene. I think it was so much more moving because of what they were doing. While they were actually physically coming together, they were emotionally there together. So I really loved it, and I'm really excited to see what else this author is going to do with this series. Okay, so then I read Storm by Serena Akeroyd. This is the 8th book in the Dark and Dirty Sinners MC series, and I loved this. I think it's one of my favorites out of this series. I'm trying to get through all of Serena Akeroyd's backlist and reading it in her order. So this is between Storm and Kiera, and they actually have been brought up a lot in the previous books. You kind of have to read all of these in order. But I think you could read this as a standalone because it's not bringing up too much stuff that's like the ongoing story. So you could definitely go into this if it's a good second chance romance. Basically, Storm has been a drug addict, a sex addict. Kiera basically left him and is like trying to divorce him and everything because he cheated on her. And so she was told by one of like the club bunnies or whatever you want to call them that like he'd been cheating on her for a year, even when she was like in bed rest when she was pregnant with their daughter. So she basically cuts it off with him. He has to move to a different chapter out of state. So a lot goes on with their daughter in the previous books where she was actually getting groomed by like a perv and everything because her dad wasn't around and she was like very vulnerable to that. And so after that whole thing happens, Kiera and her daughter move closer to him and he's just trying to like show them that he's being better. He's sober. You know, he's not having sex. He even has like this piercing with like a lock on his dick where he's like, nobody else is going to touch us but you. And so it's this beautiful second chance romance of like both of them coming to terms with what went wrong in their relationship. And like that, you know, he didn't cheat as bad as what she thought, but like he would cheat like because he would get so obliterated and so high on drugs that he wouldn't know it wasn't her that he was having sex with. And he was kind of taken advantage of in those situations. So it's not like obviously defendable, but like it's understandable. So I just think this is such a more emotional read. Okay, sorry about that. I just accidentally kicked my tripod. So it may be a little different shot here. I don't know, but let's continue. So this is a more emotional read by Serena Akeroyd, and I don't usually like second chance romance. I'm really picky on it. A lot of times it feels like I'm just told how much they loved each other and you don't feel that, but I really felt it. There's a lot of flashbacks to like them throughout the years and just to see how much like self-hatred and how hard Storm is on himself. So it's great because it also includes a lot of therapy. Like they're going to therapy with their daughter because of what happened to her. But then when they decide to kind of make a go at it, they're actually going to therapy together. So I always love that when that's included because I think everybody, you know, probably like, especially going through those kind of situations would need therapy. So I really, really loved this. I do gotta say there's trigger warnings for cheating, drug and sex addiction, depression, mentions of child abuse and grooming, because obviously what happened with their daughter. So I really loved this and I gave it 5 stars and 2.5 chilies. It's an amazing book. I think like it's not, they don't really have sex till like near the end. And so I really loved it because it was a couple that already had that part of themselves, but they had to like come together and, you know, mend what they broke because of his sexual activities. And like Kira's not at fault either. Like she had, you know, not really been part of the MC. She was always less like not being involved. So I don't know. It was just really, it's very more realistic, gritty kind of second chance story that I loved. So I'm not going to really go into detail about this book. We read the Christmas blanket for our group read for the December readathon. So I don't want to give away all my thoughts on that. You'll have to watch the live show and I'm sure we'll all talk about it, but I'll briefly mention what I thought. This is also a second chance romance. It's snowed in, all that, small town. And this is between River, Jensen, and Eliza. And they were basically like high school sweethearts, married right out of high school. And she wanted to travel. She's got like the wanderlust. And he refused to like compromise or even anything. So they ended up kind of ending their marriage and getting divorced so that she could go travel. So it's been a few years of her doing that, and she comes back home to visit her parents for the holiday, and her car breaks down like and gets stuck in the snow like right in front of his house. And so they end up getting stuck in his cabin without any cell reception or anything. So then they're forced to kind of talk about their feelings and like what went wrong. There's like a truth or dare thing. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cute. I do think the heroine kind of annoyed me a little bit. So that's what lowered it to a 4-star for me. So I gave this one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then I read No Tomorrow by Carian. This has been on my TBR forever. I've been putting it off because I heard it was super angsty and like rock star romance. And those rock star romances don't really work for me a lot of the time. And I heard it was really long and all of that. So I was like, I have to read it before the end of the year. So I finally read this. And I don't really agree with the hype. So I didn't even think this was angsty because I didn't really care about the characters. This is between Blue and Piper, and Blue is like homeless when she met him outside like this in the park where she would go for her lunch. And he was this musician that would kind of just play. He was kind of like a wanderer, wanderlust kind of guy that always traveled from place to place. And he chose to be homeless. Like he wanted to be homeless. And so it's her romance with him. And I just didn't feel the romance. I mean, the first third of this book is them like kind of falling for each other, I guess. But I got to tell you that like it's obvious from get-go that this guy has drug addiction issues, and also that he's got a mental disorder or mental illness or something going on. And our heroine is just so clueless about it. And like, the heroine drove me nuts in this because she constantly just accepted like his bare minimum. Like he didn't even tell her last name. He didn't tell her anything about himself. He would disappear all the time and go walk and like not come back. I mean, and their first time having sex, he literally screws her roughly under the freaking bridge where he lives. And she was so like felt like that was her virginity, and he took her roughly, like basically fucked her face kind of thing. And I was just like, ew, like that was not a good first time. She literally throws up right afterwards because she was so disturbed by it. You know, she keeps coming back to this guy. And so like he ends up leaving and just abandoning his dog with her. And she doesn't know how to get in touch with him once she finds out she is pregnant because she never even got his last name, which that's really annoying to me too. So this book has so many time jumps. That's another part. I don't like time jumps. There's so many time jumps, and, you know, all these years that it spans. And, you know, I honestly felt like she was the same character from the beginning of the book. She makes stupid decisions. She doesn't grow up. So a lot of this, I was just very annoyed with the heroine because she was constantly just waiting for him to come back to her and just, you know, taking his issues. So I do get his reasons because he did have mental, you know, issues that he wasn't going to a therapist or getting, you know, seeing anybody about. And he had drug addiction issues, but I don't know, it was just toxic. This guy had every red flag that should make you run the other way, yet she always just put up with it. And then she's all surprised when it comes out about an action he does because of his mental illness. And it's how did you not know? It's ugh. So I was very frustrated with this. I ended up giving it 3 stars and 3 chilies. Trigger warnings is mental illness, drug addiction, dubcon, suicide, and death of a parent. So just be aware, it does deal with very heavy subject matters. Okay, and the last book that I read was The Shake Off. This is an arc by Lulu Moore. This is the second book in the New York Lions. This is a baseball romance. I really enjoyed this one. It was a funny setup. This is between Ace and Peyton. And Ace is the star pitcher for the New York Lions. And he actually sees Peyton after her birthday party. He sees her he just drive on the road and stops by to kind of pick her up. He's this very ego, suave, ladies man. And they end up going back to her place. But the one night stand wasn't very great for her. she didn't get an orgasm, and so he like ends up passing out. He was more like focused on himself than her, and so he wakes up the next morning thinking she's gonna be all over him, want stuff from him like every other girl does, and she's gone. She just leaves a note like, oh yeah, you can have some coffee, the door locks on your way out. And he's so like blown away by this. They end up running into each other at the charity function because she's friends with the owner of his baseball team. And he like is demanding to know like what happened. And so she basically doesn't hold her punches. She tells him like, you didn't give me an orgasm. You were more focused on you and finishing than like me. So yeah, I don't really want to do that again. And so he wants a second chance to try, and she's saying no. And this eventually gets into his head, and he gets what's called the yips. Like, I don't know a lot about baseball, but I guess that's what this is called, where he gets in his head, and he's a pitcher, so it's a lot of a mental game. And so he's like has one of the worst games of his life, where they literally had to like pull him out and put another pitcher on. And so he like wants her to help him and figure this out. She actually wants to work, she works in a publishing company, and she wants to get out of the children's books and go to another area, but she's having a hard time getting there. So this run-in with the boss, she actually is a big fan of Ace's and wants like autographed stuff. And so they basically agree to help each other. And so that's kind of what starts off. And it's like kind of a lessons in seduction, but for the man. And I love those. So I really liked this. I did kind of get irritated with the heroine again on this because she is like against relationships. And so I thought like the third act was kind of annoying. So I gave that one 4 stars, and it has a 2.5 chilies. So I had a really good time with that one. Okay, so those are the books that I read for the first half of December. Thank you so much for watching this. Again, like I've almost been doing this a year, and I'm really trying to grow my channel. So if you could please subscribe to my channel and then like and comment on this video, I'd really appreciate it. All right, thank you so much. I will see you on the next one.